once again, and welcome back to a new day here on TV3. Now it's time for us to talk about a social issue which is extremely worrying, especially when it gets to the point where we have extreme weather. Now, I've always said this, I believe we are a management country. We deal with everything after the fact rather than being preventative. But to help me discuss this in depth and how the bad weather will have its consequences and repercussions is Nana Jomo Sarpong, who is the president of Friends of River and Water Bodies. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Great. Okay, first off, we've been experiencing some seriously unfamiliar, erratic weather. What's the explanation? I mean, why is this happening all of a sudden?
Yeah, thank you very much. And we have been experiencing this erratic weather due to climate change. We've been talking about climate change since 2003. And then we've been attending conferences. Unfortunately for us, those who are in the public sector, and when they go to these workshops and conferences, they come back and they don't educate the public.
Right.
So in Ghana, climate change is a problem. And in climate change, there are two extreme weathers. Climate change comes with two extreme weather. One will be flooding, that is severe rainfall, and one will be drought. And in both cases, water is a challenge that we have. So if there will be too much, there will be nothing.
Yeah.
So if you don't manage your environment very well, you don't manage water very well, then in these two cases you have challenges. That is why in climate change it calls for adaptation and it calls for mitigation. And in adaptation, whatever we are doing in our planning as a country, we should plan with the aim that we are adopting certain measures which would make sure that we are not negatively affected by this erratic change of weather.
Okay. When
it rains, what do we do so that we don't experience serious flooding? Flooding is good in the science sector. It helps when you are experiencing drought and you have certain flood in certain areas, but not in every corner of the city or in every street or road, because what we are experiencing now is that we are not managing our environment well. We are not managing our water bodies. We are not managing our valleys. We are not managing anything. All we are doing is that we are not, and the sad thing is that we are not managing our land. In climate change, land management is very, very important. What do I say? What do I mean by land management? If you don't manage land, you cannot manage your water body. You cannot manage drought. You cannot manage your flood.
Yeah.
So in this case, you have left yourself. You are vulnerable to any weather, and that is what we see back home in Ghana. Sometimes it's very sad.
What's the impact of this in regards to our country, our social development, economic development, when we don't take heed to such warnings, when we allow for constant flooding and droughts to happen?
Sometimes it's very painful. That our actions and inactions are going to cause us a lot. One, it will cause us economic problems. That means we're going to, when there's drought, what do? We will experience food shortages. It is, scientists have come out, research is indicating that by the year 2030, the world food prices is increasing by 130%, which means we need water to irrigate and to do mechanized farming. So if you don't manage your water Resource Commission Board, we made a buffer zone policy. I was part of them, where we advocated that the buffer zone policy must be uniform. We see there were the planning people were having there, the forestry people were having, so it was not properly managed. So we put a policy together whereby there's a buffer zone policy. That when there's a water body, there should be enough space between the river course and then the water, so that when it rains, it can stay there and sip and then go into the river slowly. Then also our NGO has been going around the country. We started a project in Dakar, in Yendi, where we planted trees to show the people that the degraded perennial cover of the water bodies need to be fixed. So we did that with this, and we are doing a project at Lake Bosontri. We did it at Tano. So we are all over the place, Lampaku in Eastern region, where we go to the people, because the people are the most important element, or people. The people are the most important target group when it comes to water management and come to environmental management. In the offices, they know they have the information, but it doesn't get to the people. Yeah. But we go to the people, meet with them, ask them how it was before and what they are seeing, and then you see 30% of the world is affected by this erratic weather change. 30%, and mostly the people in the village. So we go there, plant trees with them. We ask them, what in the covers here? They tell you, there were trees around this place. It's okay, let's face it back. So the little we do, we try to help them to do it. And then we do it with a sense of poverty reduction strategy and disaster management. When we plant economic trees, they will harvest it and make money. So they won't go back to destroy the water body. But what is painful now is that when we are changing all our water bodies to drains, this one, I have told the public officers that it is not done anywhere in the world. Elsewhere in the world, waterfront is the most expensive place to live. But when you walk through Accra or any of our cities, you don't see any waterfront. All those places that hitherto should have been developed, the water should have been widened and then flowing through the city to capture rainwater. They have made it drains, change them into drains, gutters, and these gutters also carry a lot of waste. We don't have any cover, we don't have anything protect. So when it rains, it takes all the waste into the drain and it fill it, and the water overflows and is causing a lot of harm to us. That also causes a lot of diseases.
I'm going to ask you a question because you're already answering it before you actually get there. I want you to give the relationship between flooding and disease and flooding, disease, and poverty.
Thank you. I think I was going there because
you were. That's why I stopped that question.
Thank you. You see, when there's flood, it carries a lot of waste, human waste, and chemical waste, everything. So when it rains, it carries them into the river body or the drains, and already the drains are stinking. You see, full of germs, bacteria, cells in them. So when it rains and it overflows, children, especially the vulnerable group are the children. When they step into it and they touch their shoes, they get diarrhea. So diarrhea is number one now in the world instead of malaria, and it's learned that 443 million school days are lost in a year in the developing countries because of diarrhea, and it affects education also. Then also when this water, after the flood, stagnant water, they bleed mosquito. Then anaphylaxis mosquito will bite you, you get malaria. It will affect your health, it will affect productivity, it will affect education, it affects life. People are died because of those things. Then also we have upper respiratory diseases. When this water starts sinking, it causes upper respiratory diseases. That is when you cough, and it mostly affects children. When you go to the schools, you see that they are suffering because of catarrh, what we call catarrh and all those things. So those people are seriously affected. Then on the more serious note, we also have other diseases which we don't even talk about. The chemicals in those water sometimes also enter into the food and the human waste. That is where I challenged some time ago that it is not the UHA seller by the street that causes a cholera, but it's the human waste which is all over the place because we throw it everywhere, and when it flood, it carries them everywhere, and we step into it. So when you touch your shoe or you shake somebody and eat your food, you get cholera. How can we be having cholera every year in Accra, in Kumasi, in other places? All because we are not managing the flood, we are not managing the water, we are not managing the weather. It's only in Africa that every weather God give us, we are offended. When it rains, we are offended. When it's sunshine, we are offended. But all of them are for a purpose, because we have to manage. Weather we have to manage the weather in such a way that we are not negatively affected. Look, when it snow on the mountain, they are doing.
You keep on mentioning management, but this my whole thing has been the case of we have the likes of EPA, we have the likes of NADMO, but they are not preventative services. We're waiting for something to happen, then afterwards we deal with it and we say, oh, but you know how it is, the floods will come, and this is how we deal with it afterwards. We don't do anything to prevent any of these issues.
When we were growing up, they used to tell us that prevention is better than cure.
So why are we practicing it?
We knew that.
So why?
But unfortunately, the public servant, the civil servant, don't want to do it. You see, they know that when they don't do it, they will blame the government. You see, that is what is going on in Africa. The public servant, the resource man who is sitting there knows what to do, he won't do it. And then there's a problem, they'll say, oh, government. But you see, who are the people who are professionals, who have been put there? Let me tell you something about EPA. There are only 2 districts in Ghana that have the EPA in the district. 260 something district, only 260 or so. Only 2 districts have EPA there. They are all in the regions. What can they do? They cannot. And even the assemblies, the environmental desks, they don't do anything. My biggest challenge in this country is the district assemblies. They are not helping because they have been given power and authority to make laws and bylaws, to regulate, to also manage everything. But all they do is that they only make bylaws to tax the people. But in effect, they are not doing their work. The assemblies must be made to be responsible for the area. NADMO, as you mentioned, they are disaster preventing. But how many times do you get them on air or go pay to tell people that don't do this? They're looking for a disaster. When disaster come, then they will come and manage it.
Yeah.
But when you waste your time to solve a problem, you don't achieve anything. Unfortunately, we always want to waste our time to solve problems and we don't achieve anything.
Fair to say that we're putting politics over our own health?
No, it is the public servant who is not doing his work.
Okay.
If the public servant, the man, look, like this gutter engineering I've been talking about, you know that when it rains, the water must seep into the soil. Okay, but if you don't do that and you create a concrete for the water to go in, you don't provide a cover, and waste is going into the drain and is stinking, and you think that is rainstorm or storm drain. It is not storm drain. When storm drain are water bodies that is from the roof, you capture it and direct it. You don't let it come on the ground, carry all sort of waste, and then you tell us it's storm drain. I'm challenging them on that.
I want them to come on the show myself, so when they do, we'll invite you also.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we ran out of time. Very passionate subject of yours. This has been Nana Jomo Sarpong, who's the president of Friends and River Water Bodies, doing his own part for our environment here in Ghana. We'll be back in a few moments.